here tonight on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Monterey County who are conducting this candidates forum. As you know, the forum is for two candidates running for District 2 seat on the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. They are Ramon Gomez and Glenn Church. The candidate elected will serve a 4-year term. The candidates have provided campaign literature, which is in the back there somewhere. And if you would like to hear the English to Spanish interpreter, please see Lupita, Jaime, and Ann Vidales at the back table back there. They're waving at you for hearing headsets. This forum is also being recorded by Wes White and will be available via the League's website. How will the forum proceed? We will be using the League of Women Voters format. Please hold all applause until the forum is over. No doubt some of you are here to support one of the candidates, but if you interrupt with applause, we have less chance for questions. Likewise, please hold any groans. We want to maintain a respectful tone. At the end of the forum, we will give the candidates a big round of applause. The candidates have agreed to the following rules in order to ensure balanced and equal time for them to enable us to maximize the number of questions asked from you. Number one, the order of speaking was established by a coin toss up here. The order of speaking will alternate. The candidate who speaks first at the opening statement will speak last at the closing. The opening statements are 2 minutes each. After opening statements, I will ask the candidates the written questions we have collected from you, the audience, or have been brought forth earlier. They will take turns answering first, and each answer will be no longer than 90 seconds. After the last question, each candidate will then have 1 minute for a closing statement. The candidate who went first to open will go last to close. The League has provided a timekeeper to ensure that responses stay within time limits. The timer this evening is Alice and Glenn. Sign will warn speakers with 15 seconds to go, and it's time to stop. And she's waving the signs for you. At the stop sign, candidates may finish the sentence they are on, but they may not start another one. Candidates are reminded that this is a forum and not a debate. They will address the audience and not each other, and they are asked to refrain from making comments about each other.
Can they make comments about us?
No.
No.
Now about your written questions. If you brought previously prepared questions, that's fine, and you can give them to the ladies at the table back there, or the people at the table back there. Index cards and pens are been provided if you want to write a question. They're on your chairs right now. If you need a card, hold up your hand, and when your question is written, hold the card up. And Beth Benoit, wherever she is, there she is, will come and pick up your cards.
Can I break in here?
You may.
Lupita is going to make a little announcement.
I'm just repeating what the announcement we made about Spanish interpretation and to
I
Spanish.
just speak directly into it.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Lupita Jaime. Estoy aquí con mi compañera Ana Vidales. Somos intérpretes de español para si alguien necesita interpretación o prefiere escuchar en español, estamos disponibles en la mesa de atrás.
One thing to remember when you're writing down your questions, good penmanship counts. If we can't read what you've written, we can't ask the question. Let's see. The questions must be applicable to the duties of the members of the Board of Supervisors and not some other branch of government. And they must be applicable to both candidates. Questions addressed to just one candidate will be set aside. Written questions from the audience will be sorted by League members to remove duplicates, to set aside inapplicable questions, and to ensure a wide range of issues is addressed. The question sorters in the back there are Mary Ellen Dick, Tana Oliver, and Paul Fleischman. Okay, it's time to get started with opening statements. By coin toss, Ramon will go first, and he has 2 minutes for this statement.
Good evening. Before I go right into the program, I want to take a moment to wish every mom and person that acts as a mom, hey, happy Mother's Day. It's this Sunday, it's happy Mother's Day. My name is Ramon Gomez. I running for Monterey County Supervisor because I believe our communities deserve leadership that listens, shows up, and delivers results. I was raised in the Pajaro Valley, in the community of Royal Oaks, and in Watsonville. My wife Juana and I live out in Prunedale and are raising our children there. I understand the real challenges that people are facing every day in our community. The rising cost of housing, unsafe roads, flooding concerns, public safety issues, and the feeling that too many communities have been overlooked for far too long. I am a father, a youth coach, a public servant, and community advocate. I currently serve as the Chief of Staff to a County Supervisor, where I help residents solve problems and work on budgets and policy. I also serve as an elected official in the North County Fire District as a director and a Monterey County Planning Commissioner. I've worked as a volunteer, not as a paid staff person, to help secure over $700 million for Pajaro River flood protection. Supported restoring firefighter staffing and their emergency response equipment, and helped draft one of the strongest local ordinances on battery energy storage facilities in the nation. My campaign will put people first and is powered by volunteers who are my neighbors, your neighbors, youth, families, and seniors. My grassroots campaign will be outspent almost 4-1, but I'm counting on volunteers and community members to step up and help me get over the top. As your supervisor for North County, I will put North Monterey County first to improve public safety, strengthen. I hope I can count on your support. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. I'm running for re-election because I want to continue and finish some of the projects that I've already started. As you all know, government moves slow, believe me. When you're on the inside, you really see how slow government moves. I was able to get turn lanes put in on Hall Road at P&E Johnson and Willow Road. It took 2 years to do that. Starting in 23, I worked to get some sidewalks into Castroville here, where, as you noticed, there's sidewalks, there's dirt, there's sidewalks. I'm still waiting for that to get finalized, and just heard today, it's going to be pushed back until probably next spring, but it's coming. But that's almost 4 years. That's how long it takes to do things. That's why I'm running for a second term. There are a number of issues and things I want to see going through and fulfilled. As you well know, there was the floods in Pajaro. I sit on the board that oversees the $700 million that was secured by Congressman Panetta and State Senator John Laird, the state and federal alliance onto that. And I want to make sure that project stays on course to be finished. There is the battery energy storage ordinance that we are working on in the county right now, that I want to see this get completed so we can keep as much local control as possible in doing this. I don't want to see us end up as Santa Cruz County has, where a company that is coming into Watsonville to do things is going to be leaving there because they do not have an ordinance in effect. And they're going to go to the state, where we don't have any or very minimal impact upon that. So I am looking forward here to seeing Monterey County get the first Bay Area, Monterey Bay Area ordinance into effect. There are other things such as roads, which is we're getting $18 million a year and annually now, and I want to see that continued. We're facing some really intense water regulations in the state and want to see us keep local control on that.
Okay, it's time to get started with questions. By coin toss, Glenn will respond first, and we will alternate who answers each question first. And again, they get 90 seconds, 1.5 minutes to answer the questions. First question, what will you be doing to ensure that there is sufficient funding to complete the Pajaro levee flood control program? Let me repeat it. I'll read each of them twice so you can think about it. What will you be doing to ensure that there is sufficient funding to complete the Pajaro levee flood control program?
Well, as I just mentioned here, there is $700 million that's been pledged through state and federal efforts onto this. So there is a path to go ahead and do that. Although last year the current federal administration did cut back on some funds, but then they put them back in. So I feel very confident because this project was initially funded during the first Trump administration that they aren't going to pull the funds on this. So I think the funding will be there, but it's to go through and make sure that it is spent properly is the real key. And right now, and this is, one thing that always to realize here is that that levee is owned by the federal government, and specifically the United States Army Corps of Engineers. They're the one that put it in, they own it. It wasn't built properly in '49, they used improper soil, that was determined in the 1960s, and we are still at a risk of what will happen there. But they are determining when the work schedule goes. Right now they're working on the Santa Cruz side in the Corralitos area, but I am, in the next few years, they're going to be coming on this side. I wish they had started where the breach had occurred back in 2023. But I sit on the Potawatomi River Flood Management Agency board. We're the one that oversee what is being done there and how that money is being spent. And right now we have the money to do that.
I was involved in working on the legislation to help create that authority. I take credit for the $700 million because I helped pass a local benefit assessment for the Monterey River. The requirement of the federal funding was that they have an ability to pay for maintenance, and the benefit assessment will help pay for the maintenance of that the new Monterey River levee. It's helping pay for the maintenance today. But the commitment of the federal government should be ongoing. It should be an ongoing commitment. And I'll work hard. I use our lobbyists. I use my relationships with both the state senators, because it's a combination of state and federal funding, and with no local participation aside from the benefit assessment. So I work hard to get the state and the federal government to do that. Use our lobbyists both the state level and the local level, and our relationships with those elected officials to ensure that the money continues to come to our community. I have no doubt that the money will be here. The question is, when will it be here? I'd rather it be here sooner than later, because what we are doing now is that we're building the levee in phases, because we don't have the full funding now. If we were to get all the funding now, we could start doing every single phase today, so long as the planning is done and the engineering is done, and we can move forward with that project. And I'm glad to say that the work has started, and we've gotten over $200 million allocated for those two reaches that we've started on.
The Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency has some proposed water projects. Some may cost billions of dollars. How will we pay for them? Again, the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency has some proposed water projects that's going to cost billions of dollars. How will we pay for that?
There's been several studies done about the groundwater sustainability that have been done by the Salinas Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Some of them involve stormwater capture, recycled water expansion, groundwater recharge projects, conservation, and desalination. All these projects are very expensive. We're talking about billions of dollars. It's going to require local participation. It's going to require the federal and state government to help us. It's not, we can't do this alone. And I'll work like I'm working on I worked on the Potawatomi River levee project to get the funding. It will again require local participation from residents, farmers, and business people in our community. But it can't be done with just that. We're also going to need state and federal participation.
So the Groundwater Sustainability Agency, the Salinas Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency, it was created by the state about 10 or 12 years ago. And what the state is demanding is that we have, approximately this is what it's requiring, is that we are taking out as much water by 2040 as we are putting in. This is what our goal is we have to achieve. If we do not achieve this, the state will come in, they will take over control of our water. They won't build projects. They will require a demand cut. And that is probably 35% across the board. And that is significant. That will not be just affecting us individually. It will be affecting the economy. It will affect our way of life. We cannot lose local control. So yes, there are billions of dollars in projects that are being considered at this time. How do we pay for them? We will get some money from the state. hopefully we'll get some money from the federal government. But we've been seeking that for the same thing for the maintenance of the dam account. It will not be enough to cover everything. In the Pajaro River, we got an exceptionally rare opportunity. It paid for all the work. Most of these water projects, almost every water project you come across, you only get about half of that. That leaves us a huge amount left over. And as there has been analysis that have been done, and if it's going to be paid for and dealt with here, what it's going to have to be is it can't be just up here in the north, because that's where most of the projects are. It's going to require county-wide coordination. And that's why I called for a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors, so we could get all the stakeholders together to go ahead and meet and come up with some solutions. And that was one sentence at the end.
Okay, what is your position on short-term rentals and a county ordinance? Short-term rentals and a county ordinance.
I've taken a position of supporting the current short-term rental ordinance. It passed the board on a 3-2 vote. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it deals with our concerns up here. I am not against people having short-term rentals when you live in your home. But I think if you live in a residential zone, it's there for a purpose to live in. Whether you rent or you own, you should be there. It shouldn't be turned into a commercial operation is what short-term rentals do. And at that point, that's where we have problems with noise and disruptions in neighborhoods. But also, it takes away critical housing for people who want to buy homes, for people who want to rent in homes, and it takes those off the market. And that is my concern, is that these are something that worsens our affordability issues. And I have no support coming in from anybody that's supporting the short-term rental ordinance. Actually, I just called up somebody to ask them if they would contribute to my campaign, and they were upset with me because I took that position. But I'm standing with that because I feel that is the very best thing that we need to do to keep housing affordable. I'm not against these. If you live in your home and you want to rent something out inside the home, you need it to pay for the home, you need to purchase for the home if you're elderly and want some extra income, or if it's being done in agricultural or commercial zoning. But I do not think commercial, short-term rentals should be done in residential zoning as a commercial business.
As a planning commissioner, I, along with all my colleagues, voted to encourage the Board of Supervisors to rescind their decision and reconsider their decision on short-term rentals. I know that especially seniors in our communities depend on that income to be able to cover their bills. I think that the board, in their infinite wisdom, decided to ban them in residential areas. That's essentially banning them altogether, because about 99% of the short-term rentals are in a residential area. I do believe in caps. Caps have worked well in Santa Cruz County. I think we need to have caps, and we do need to manage that. But I think that it would be a mistake to eliminate them altogether. It's also bringing taxes to our. They also bring in revenue and taxes to our community, which help pay for the services that we provide.
Okay, some major roads in North County have been repaved. How will the new road funding be maintained and continue? How will the new road funding be maintained and continue for these newly paved roads?
We have, there's essentially three, aside from the general fund, there's three big pots of money for road funding in our community. One of them is the new measure AA, the other one is Measure X, and then there's state and federal funds that come to our area. I know that Measure AA brings in about $26 million a year. I'm not sure exactly how much money Measure X, the TAMSI sales tax, brings in. But what I believe is that we've done better, but we have not gotten, our area has the largest unincorporated population. And that means that we have the highest use of our roads. And I believe that we're still not getting our fair share. So what I would do and will do is advocate for a change in the formula that we use to fund our roads. And that looks at both road miles, but also looks at issues of equity and density to better get funding for our roads in Monterey County.
So when I went on the Board of Supervisors, That was one of the main issues that I had heard from people. And there were roads that had not been paved for many years. Every time this county has financial constraints, it cuts the road budget. That's why Elkhorn Road and strips of it hadn't been paved since the 1960s. It was scheduled in the 1970s. It took 50 years out of that. When I went into office, one of the first things I was able to do was to get the transient occupancy tax, which is a tax on hotels and short-term rentals. And before they had 25% of it allocated roads. It was down to about 13 or 14%. I got it raised up to about 25%, and that raised another $5 million that we've been putting into. But major AAA, we are now committed to spending half of that money, which is somewhere between 25 and 30 million. We've been through a full year of collecting it to going to roads. When you add all that up, with you're coming to around $18 million or so, it looks like this year, extra roads. This board, fortunately, I can support on to continue to keep that, and we're going to continue to keep that. We've been able to pave Dolan Road, we've been able to pave Elkhorn Road. Bear Canyon Road there's surveyors out there today that I hear, it's going to be next up being paved. There's going to be other ones. It's going to be a consistent, steady process at this board. That's one of the reasons I want to stay on the board, to make sure that that stays in place, because we have been trying to achieve that for some time.
Since the Moss Landing fire, what is the most important safety action you have taken in North County to reduce the possibility of another battery fire at Moss Landing? What have you done to reduce the possibility of another battery fire at Moss Landing?
There's a lot of things we've done since then, and I'm trying to evaluate what they would be. I wish we knew the cause of the fire. That's something that really, the CPUC's been investigating for a year and a half, and that would be one of the most important things to achieve. When that fire took place, I and Don Andis called for an investigation. The governor gave that job to the CPUC. We're still waiting for an answer on that. That would be really helpful in stopping a fire, but we don't know that answer yet, and I have no idea when the CPUC, which is the California Public Utilities Commission, and oversees all utilities, including batteries. But that would be one, I think, would really be an important thing to achieve. But I would say the thing that comes to my mind right off that I think I've done the most and most proud of and being involved with, and there's other peoples in the community have advocated for this as well, is to have the other indoor facility. Their Moss 100, when the one that burned was called Moss 300, and Moss 100 still had batteries in it. And Distra was not committing that they would go through and not open that up. Every time I met with them over the last year and a half, I brought it up and said, you do not want to start this up. That will set this community off in a bad way in your relations. And that's why I'm glad to have heard a month or two ago that they had decided not to reopen that up.
Our firefighters responded to that emergency. We made sure that they had the resources that they needed to be able to protect property, protect lives, and protect themselves from this fire. As a chief of staff to a supervisor, I initiated the process to develop a battery storage ordinance. Our battery storage ordinance, the reason why and it's a balancing act. The reason why the project developer that's considering doing a project in Watson One in the state is because it's not because we don't have an ordinance. It's because our ordinance is too tough. There's two conditions that they don't like. One of them has to do with changing title if the project were to sell, and it had to get board approval. The other had to do with the ratio of land conversion. They convert agricultural land. It would require, currently the law requires 2-to-1 conversion, preservation of 2 acres for everyone used for a project. Our new rule would require 3-to-1. So that the objective that went straight to the state. But our rule requires both baseline water, soil, and air testing. It also requires compensation to the property owners that if they were ever to have an emergency. It would also require that they pay for the emergency response if it were to happen. So that's the strongest and best in the nation. And I work on that.
North County residents are concerned about how groundwater overdrafting will affect drinking water reliability and affordability. Now there is a $950 million brackish water project proposing to take 47,900 acre-feet of brackish water from wells in the Castroville area. What effect do you think these extraction wells will have on the North County water table?
I think that I think it will hurt. It will hurt North County, and I think it does have an impact in our community. This is an area that I've worked with more directly as a chief of staff to Supervisor in Santa Cruz County with our Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency. Our Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency is probably I would say about 15 years ahead in terms of water management planning, dealing with saltwater intrusion. So I think that we have to do what we have to do locally to protect ourselves from that kind of action in the state.
So this brackish water project is one of the projects that was mentioned earlier. We're talking about billions and billions. But there are about 7 different variations on this project that really range from 800 million to 1.5 billion. And some of them have, it pulls with its brackish water. It's as the water comes in from the ocean, is heading or past Castroville to Salinas. It's not completely seawater. It's a mix of seawater and fresh water. So that's why it's called brackish. It'll be pulled out. It's going to be desalinated and re-injected back in. Although some of those plants have a lot of desalinated water that would be available to sale. And that would be one way to help pay for it, since that was an earlier question as well. This question was asking how it would impact our groundwater levels. And it's actually a really good question here I hadn't really thought about before, because it could impact, if you're taking out 100 parts of this water and you're treating some and only putting 50 in, then you're having better water going in there that's going to be usable and drinkable because it's not brackish, it's desalinated. But there's obviously some empty space into there. So there is water up in the Prudendale area, for example, that's sort of held in by the water table, and it could drift on down. I think that's I don't think it's something that's been considered and looked at, and I haven't even considered and looked at this until this question has come up just now.
For some people in North County, driving trash or green waste to Salinas can be difficult. What alternative can you offer?
But when I started, I said government moves slow, and I gave 2 examples. I gave an example of Hull Road, where there were turn lanes, and I gave examples of the sidewalks that are trying to get here in Castroville repaired. The other thing, which I didn't bring up, that was initiated in the summer of 2023 with the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority, was to get us a transfer station, so we could have a place out here in North County to dispose of our trash and not have to go to Salinas or to Marina. And that is in the process of being completed too. It should be completed by next year. That would be a reopening, not of the Crazy Horse landfill, but of the Crazy Horse landfill as a transfer station. And it is, I just was at a meeting this week with the Land Use Advisory Committee in Monterey County. They were looking at this in North County, and there was going to be extensive lanes changing on Crazy Horse so that there wouldn't be a backup. There was problems when it was opened up many years ago where there was traffic issues. I think this is going to be mitigated. This is going to be taking place probably by next summer. This will be coming into existence, and it will be cheaper than the current facilities in Marina or Salinas, and be much more accessible, and I believe it will also reduce our trash and littering on the roads.
I'm supportive of a transfer station over on Crazy Horse. I think it's a good policy. It reduces greenhouse gases. We don't have to travel as far. It also reduces, it also reduces the costs. The real challenge really is the traffic and how we deal with that and how we make it feasible in terms of making it happen financially.
What actions will you take to address the problem of leaking septic tanks? Many of us on septics are also getting our drinking water from wells, and nitrates from septic can contaminate our wells.
I think offering testing, I think the county currently offers testing, but offering it at a reduced rate would help. And also possibly creating a small grant program, or loan program to assist homeowners deal with that expense. Because it's not cheap. I know it's not cheap to resources. I live in a property that has both, I live out in Prunedale, that has both as septic, and we have to also have wells. So it's a challenge, and it's ongoing monitoring, testing, and then all these new regulations also are requiring us to pay more fees just for testing that we never even see. So we got to make sure that testing that takes place is shared with us, and that we're benefiting from it.
Replacing the septic tank has become in the last few years a lot more expensive than it used to be. We're talking about $40,000, $60,000 or so. It is actually one of the constraints on building an ADU, which can now be done both coastal and the inland areas in the county. The health department is very aggressive on going after these whenever it finds out about them, but the problem is the cost, and to go through and do testing and to go through and most people do not invite the county in to test your septic system or anything else. And it's only usually discovered when there is a house being sold or some other kind of inspection, or if a septic tank is going to be replaced into that way. And I would agree, if there can be some funding that can be found from this, from the state or elsewhere to assist in this, it would be great. I have been trying to find ways to get the costs reduced so that we can have these systems in place, because if they're too expensive to replace, then you're not going to replace them. And right now, they are really exorbitant in price. So it needs to be something done to keep it affordable. And right now, there is not a place to go and get that kind of money or a source for pull from.
A simple question. What action do we have, or will it take, for wildfire prevention?
There's a lot of things we can do, and this has been a major issue and concern of mine. As many of you may know, I was able to get $1 million grant when I first came in office through the help of Senator Laird to establish a pilot eucalyptus removal program of hazardous trees around homes. And I'm really hopeful that this is going to be a program that we're going to be able to expand and go and utilize that elsewhere in the county. This is one step. These trees are highly flammable and put all of us at risk. I am also taking the lead right now on the county's updating the Monterey County's community wildfire prevention plan, which is about, it was last done 15 or 20 years ago and is out of date. It sets forth coordination among agencies. It sets forth ideas on doing different programs such as chipping. It becomes somewhat of your guideline book to go through and deal with wildfire prevention, and that's what we really need. I was on the Fire Safe Council of Monterey County prior to coming into the Board of Supervisors. I realized wildfires are an extremely risky and dangerous threat that we are facing at all times, and I want to see us model this plan after something such as the Tahoe Basin plan, which is very extensive. And,
I just want to say that I'm proud of the outreach that our fire department, the Monterey Fire Department does in our community. They've helped, during the last few years, they helped start over five fire-wise communities in North County. Anytime that homeowners ask for an inspection, when they have issues with the fire insurance, the bigger issue is what do we do when the state, when our insurance companies are leaving our state? What do we do when we have no ability to pay for insurance? And I think we need to do a better job in terms of lobbying the state, dealing with that issue. Because we have insurance companies that are leaving, and after we paid them for 20, 30 years and leaving us high and dry, and not allowing us to be insured and having to pay for the so-called fair plan. I call it the fair plan. I've seen folks go from paying $1,200 to $8,000 a year in insurance. That's outrageous. I think that we can do better. I think that what our fire department is doing, it's a good thing, and we should do more of it countywide.
If elected supervisor, will you support having a replacement indoor battery storage factory built at Moss Landing after cleanup?
Obviously, no. That would be the worst kind of planning you would do. It'd be horrible. It wouldn't be allowed under the current fire code, national code. What we learn now is that that kind of design is dangerous. So I would never allow that in our community, and I would never allow anything that's not safe in our community.
The ordinance that's now being developed by the county, and it's really in its infancy at this point. But one of the things that I made sure that was going to be included in there is that is not going to be allowed. And there are other places that are allowing indoor facilities still, believe it or not, and they are dangerous. And I am adamantly opposed against it 100%, and that is not going to happen as long as I'm supervisor here. I'll fight tooth and nail on that. We know the impact that will have.
Okay, we have a big budget deficit here. Monterey County has a $43 million deficit and projected $80 million for next year. If elected, are you willing to take a 50% pay cut to help balance the budget and lead by example? And Mr. Chair.
50% pay cut isn't going to do much on that. Those are the numbers that have been used when the budget was first being proposed. It's not quite as dire as that coming in, and we are going to be able to get this balanced. There will not be any job losses at all. One of the things that we're able to do is that we've had over the years hundreds, like 600, 700, 800 vacant job positions that are on the books. We are using those to deal with the deficit. We're eliminating those vacancies that aren't being filled so that we're not going to lose jobs out of county employees. We're not going to be cutting back on county services. We're not going to be cutting back on county infrastructure. And it's not easy. There have to be hard decisions made. There will be things that don't get funded that should be funded, but we are going to have a budget, and as I say, there will not be a loss in employees, for example, which I consider pretty much a red line at that point.
That's a good question. I work with a supervisor who's now retired in Santa Cruz County, and in fact, he was the biggest advocate. In fact, he himself voted, and they reduced the Board of Supervisors there did 1 year, around 2010, 2011, 2012, they reduced their salary by 10%. It wasn't 50%, but they reduced their salary by 10%. And not only did they reduce their salary, they also asked department heads to do the same thing. I think that if we're going to ask our staff, our lower paid staff, to take a cut, I think it starts with our leadership. It starts at the top. It starts with us. Whether it's our CEO or Board of Supervisors, it starts with us. We have to set the example for the rest of the people. So I'll be open to the idea of reducing my salary if the situation is that dire. I do also believe that the vacant positions are not going to be filled. Frozen, eliminating those are a good strategy in terms of dealing with the long-term deficit, structural deficit the county has. I think that we got to protect public safety, and we got to protect infrastructure if there's ever any cuts.
Okay, a few years ago, North County had a fund to help homeowners remove eucalyptus. What will you do to get more funding and to expand how many trees can be removed?
I think the program was a good program. It was funded. I think it was funded by one time grant from the state. I would advocate for more money from the state for that. I know that, as I understand it, and Mr. Chichipai, President of NICAM, is that all the funds were not spent on that program because maybe it was an issue of the matching funds you had to come up with, or it was an issue of of the cost associated with doing it. But yeah, I think it's a good program. If you get some funding for it, I think it's great.
This fund is, as I say, as I mentioned it earlier, a little bit about the $1 million that, for the assistance of John Laird, we were able to get. It was a pilot program. It was. That means that it's an experimental program, and we were able to remove actually up to a lot of small trees, but actually close to 2,000 trees. When you look at all of them, and maybe about 1,000 big ones and 1,000 small ones. I've had discussions with Senator Laird about going through and getting more funds for this, and that's what I'm hoping to be able to go through after this, is to go through and if I get elected to a second term, pursue this with him to get some funds so we can do this countywide, so we have a larger sampling of money. We did a report on this, it just came out recently, and it showed that it really was very effective. There was some problems with people counting at 50%. We had basically spent all the money down to, we were at about 70,000, and that the remaining money was, intention at that point was to give it to utilize for eucalyptus removal by North County Fire and Aromas Tri-County Fire. Because at 73,000, we didn't want to start the whole program up because we figured we'd get people that would be applying and not be able to get funded, and we knew there would be a few dollars left over towards the end. That was, that money is now being spent for removal of eucalyptus trees in hazardous areas that fire officials cannot or would have difficulty in.
How does the county ensure fair distribution of early stage planning funds across districts, especially when North Monterey County lacks even feasibility funding for a public pool or recreation facility?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure there on the planning funds. Planning is done sort of across the county, so there is funds when we're looking into area plans, as in Castroville or Moss Landing or wherever they may be, into there. But there are infrastructure projects that from the capital improvements budget that would be done. An issue with the pool wouldn't be coming necessarily from that, but that doesn't mean the county wouldn't be engaged into that. When I first was getting elected, one of the people who had been longtime advocates for the pool here is Diana Jimenez. And I had many discussions with her about that prior to being elected, and told her that that is something that I feel that is really needed, because there isn't anything between Watsonville and Salinas. And I had mentioned that when I get on the legislative committee, which is, the board has different committees, and that is the one that deals primarily with the state, that when I get on there, I was going to push through to try to make a pool a priority. I was on there last year. I was able to get it listed as long as with wildfire prevention as county priorities. The question now will be for us to find that funding, which might come from like Proposition 4. We also have to find out where to put it and who's going to operate it. And Castro will be a prime area for that location.
Those are the exact questions that a feasibility study would answer. There is potential funding source that I could look at as a low wage sales tax. Another one might be the CDBG grants that they get from the county gets from the federal government. Another one might be a partnership with the school district. If the school district doesn't have a pool, it might be a partnership with the school district. But it is a conversation that needs to we need to have, and it also requires that we do a feasibility study to see, and that feasibility study is anywhere between $100,000 to $150,000, based on my experience. Same thing happened to the community of Pajaro. The community of Pajaro is, they don't have a community plan. And the county and their wisdom is going to delay it again. They've been promised a community plan since 2010. They don't have one yet. It's a mistake. If no one develops a community plan, means their communities are not going to get any funding. That's why it's critical that we do the feasibility studies and we do community plans. Thank you.
What is your top priority as a supervisor?
My top priority as a supervisor is public safety. I work well as a fire director with my colleagues. I help bring back firefighters, bring in new fire engines, and work closely. I work closely with sheriffs and police officers in doing outreach in the community. One of the biggest challenges we have is just a lack of sheriffs in the unincorporated area. Right now, if you have an emergency, it might take quite some time to get a sheriff to respond. And oftentimes we hear that the big issue is the Hernandez consent decree that requires that so many officers be at the jail, right? What I say, and I'll continue to repeat, is that transparency is key to get out of the consent decree. I've supported efforts, and I continue to support efforts to open up and look at the books of the sheriff's office, and to also allow complaints and compliments to the sheriff be looked at by an inspector general. Inspector general is a private person that's not connected to the sheriff's office that would help, I think, get the sheriff's department get out of that consent decree and provide accountability and provide confidence for our community. And if we were to get out of that consent decree, also provide allow more officers to be roaming our community and allowing them to do community policing and doing services in our community a lot better.
Priorities. That depends. 9 weeks after I took office, there was the flooding that couldn't get borrowed. That was my priority that year. Last year, there was a battery fire. That was my priority that year. I've had roads as a priority when not having to deal with emergencies. And right now, I mean, there's a lot of things I could point out, housing and whatever, but I would have to say right now it's water, because we are dealing with an enormous issue right now. Just about, not this, 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, or about 10 days ago, we had a board meeting where we had an update from the Monterey County Water Resources Agency and the Stennis Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency on these projects and the things they're having to do. $4.5 billion in projects were presented to us. We're going to have to pick from those. And believe me, we're probably going to have to cost $2 billion. And the cost is going to be enormous. And if we go through and use one of the other alternatives, which is called demand management is the water rationing, then that effect on the economy is $1.3 to $2 billion impact. We're talking about we're not talking about regular issues here. We're talking about issues that are going to affect this place for the next 30 to 50 years if we make a mistake. And that is why this is the priority. This is critical. That is why I think we've got to bring this whole county together and deal with this water issue and come up with solutions that are affordable and that work and keeps local control.
Nearly 40% of Monterey County residents are food insecure. What can you do as supervisor to reduce that number? And Mr. Church goes first.
Lots of tragedy here in this valley of abundance, that 40% would have food insecurity. And it's obviously a problem that's been going on for a long time to get 40% in food insecurity. And the state does have programs that come into there. It's a challenge right now, and there isn't a simple, easy solution that will drop it to zero is where it should be. It's going to take going forward with consistent programs and putting a program out there and working with nonprofits, such as the food banks, which are being done. But it's also going to require going through and establishing programs that can get the food out there. And maybe we need to sit down and talk to some of our agricultural people around, because there is food that goes to waste, and try to see if some can be made more available on that way as well. But we also need to go through and work with the state and federal government. Unfortunately, both of them are doing dramatic cuts, and both of those cuts are making things very, very difficult at this time, at the same time that we're having dramatic cuts. But you can't lose sight of this, and we've got to stay focused onto it, because there's few things more important than food and having something to eat, especially for children.
During COVID, I worked with our North County Fire and with a local church, the First Baptist Church of Glendale, and we helped start a food pantry there, food distribution. We did it in partnership with the food bank in Monterey County. That program is still going on. I participated with North County LULAC in holiday food distribution in Castroville. We do one usually around Thanksgiving and one right before Christmas. Those are great programs and great ways to reach out to more people. I think that there's an opportunity to do cleaning programs. This is to go after after the companies got their product, their lettuce, their artichokes, whatever it is, and allow volunteers to go out there in the field and pick up stuff and give it to the food banks. That's been done. I think it can be done at a larger scale. It's well organized with volunteers. And I think that our local farmers would be open to that idea. I think there's more that we could do, and we should encourage that.
This is a big question about things for youth to do. Why are tax dollars consistently available for roads, but not a public pool, youth prevention programs, or stronger public safety investments in North County? What specific steps would you take to secure funding for public safety, youth programs, and a public pool instead of continuing to leave these needs unmet?
I think first, really it's about priorities. I think if we prioritize youth programs, which are great prevention programs, they're prevention. We're not just giving money away to kids. We're keeping kids from becoming criminals down the road. We're providing opportunities for our youth. We're providing opportunities not only for our youth, but also for seniors to be mentors, right? Opportunities for our young adults to also be mentors and be coaches. One of the things that I've done my entire life is coached. I coach basketball, football, and baseball. I do it, again, as a volunteer to get our youth something to do and provide opportunities for them. Again, it goes back to this formula. I think if you look at our formula and see what services are not being provided here, I think we could do better. I think we could do better, we should do better for North County. And I'll do that, I'll work towards that.
Well, roads haven't really been funded very well in the past. We've just sort of reached that in the last year or two, and I got to say that has been a very consistent big complaint. But there's no reason that we can't do roads and do these other things as well. And that does come down to some long priorities. And it does take to do some of these things, such as these infrastructure projects, and even on roads for that. There are state and federal funds that you look for to do. When we're going to be doing Salinas Road out in Pajaro is having work done on that. It is not just all county funds. There is management funds involved into there. As we get into some of these other things, or these other programs, we need to have, there's public safety programs, there's youth services, there's senior services that are needed. And we look around here, I'll just look at the senior services. We've got one facility here in Castroville and one out in Prudhoe. And they need more funds. They need more money. And I have been, with the Prudhoe Senior Center, have been able to get some money onto them. I know there's been some discussions here with that I've had in the county with, as we talked about, a pool and senior services, so we're probably trying to do something here with a pool and a senior center in Castroville. That would be the way to combine these things together, deal with two services that way, and probably some youth services as well. And I don't think I ran out of time for the public safety.
Okay, we're going to a different subject now. Our county animal services like Hitchcock, SPCA, and smaller organizations are top-notch. What would you do to support local animal rescue and sanctuaries? And Mr. Trixie.
Well, I sit on the board of the Hitchcock Road Animal Services, and I appreciate the reference that it is top-notch. There's some really dedicated people in there, but it's underfunded. It needs more services done onto it. And there needs to be more animal control officers. I've been fighting to have those added. I've been able to add a few animal control officers to that. We don't have them on weekends. We still need them on weekends. And once we have to be able to have that kind of coverage to be able to go out and really be able to deal with animal services. There's also, I think, some support that can be given to some, animal rescue groups and private groups around. There's a lot. They're doing spay and neuter on cats, for example. As Board of Supervisors, we have a small discretionary fund account, and I just usually try to distribute around to different purposes, such as senior services. I mentioned earlier, both senior centers I did, but I also have done some with some of these small groups out of here, and there are some there are a lot of different private groups around that could use more assistance as well to, because when you get this $5,000 to some of these groups that are volunteer, they do a lot. And that is one of the most impactful things you can do, is give dollars to people who are volunteering their time. But we do need more resources for this problem.
I have about 2 cats. I have about 2 cats that some hang around the house, maybe more sometimes. And I have a Malinois German Shepherd dog with a lot of energy that we love. And he's our my wife works from home, and she's the dog functions as their public safety and protection at home. I think that definitely we should continue to support the efforts of these programs. We should try to figure out how to better fund them. Oftentimes it's a combination of some county funds, but also encouraging and helping develop the capacity, right? The capacity of these programs to do a lot of private fundraising. So I'd be open to doing that. I think sometimes one of our biggest underutilized thing in our county is the expertise that we have. The expertise that we have that oftentimes is not tapped into by small organizations and our special districts in the unincorporated. Those are resources that are there that oftentimes are not tapped into. And I think that that's one of the things that I would do as a supervisor, make sure that all those resources are tapped to, and that the expertise of the county house are brought into our small nonprofits and our agencies. I think we could do a better job in terms of better serving our communities by having better relationships and working closer together to address those needs in our community.
Please describe the water conditions, quality, quantity in North County, and how you as supervisor can help improve the aquifer conditions. And Mr. Gomez, you go first. Is that basically what we said?
We've been talking about that. Glenn, do you think that's a new question, or is that something that...
It's a different angle on
But
the
it's-
question,
yeah.
but I don't care, I'll answer it, or we can look at another one.
No, I think the issue, the things that we're trying to do to deal with desalination, the things we're trying to do to deal with brackish water, those are all issues that relate to the water and the quality of water. So I think that I've already answered this question, and I appreciate the opportunity to try again. Thank you.
So there's different water conditions everywhere here through North County. Out here, we're dealing with seawater intrusion, and that's where the brackish water project is going to be occurring. As you go in other places, such as up in North County, and other places in North County, like in Ferndale, you're going to have different water issues. On the east side, there's the Granite Ridge. The water doesn't percolate in as well. So there's problems there, and there's a lot of arsenic problems as well over there. You get over on on other parts, on the western side, and the percolation is better, but there's hexavalent chromium issues. The one thing to realize is that out here in North County, we have 2/3 of the small water systems. When I say small water systems, I'm talking about 2 to 200 in size and connections. Though the county really operates 2 to 14, and the state is in charge of 15 to 200. These others, when if you're a 20-25 member water system, you're a community water system. And right now, we have to find a way to help these people be able to deal with increasing state regulations that are really just getting out of control. And I think that is one of the great challenges as we move forward, is to give the technical assistance to these water systems, give them financial assistance. Some of them are going to have to go through and unify with others.
Would you support Castroville becoming a city?
That's been discussed about here in Castroville multiple times over the years, and I've had several people meet with me in this first term about it, and I have said all along I will do what the people of Castroville want. If they want to have a city, I will support that wholeheartedly. If they decide they don't want us to come to a city, then that is fine too. This is a decision by the people, and as a supervisor, it is my responsibility, it is the responsibility of anybody as a supervisor to take the will of the people and fulfill that. So yes.
Supporting has a big it could have a lot of different meanings, right? It could mean, are you supportive of a feasibility study? Are you supportive of lobbying the state? 'Cause really, at the end of the day, it's a state decision, right? It's a state decision, and with the support of the county. So, I'm open to that idea, and I think if it's feasible and it makes sense for Castroville to become a city, I'll be supportive of it.
The NCRP district has voted to bring back the Artichoke Festival. What are your thoughts, Mr. Gomez?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great opportunity for our community to gather, develop relationships, give our vendors, our local business, small businesses, an opportunity to sell their products, and give our community an opportunity to showcase itself with the tourists and everybody else who comes to our community. I was sad to hear that it was going to disappear altogether. So I'm glad that the rec center stepped in and came in and saved it. I'm supportive of that effort and any other thing that the rec center does. I've volunteered there for the past 10 years to coach. Again, I coach both basketball there, football and baseball.
So the initials are the North County Recreation and Parks District, which runs this building, by the way. It's great that the Artichoke Festival is coming back. It is really, I think, for anybody in North County, not just Castroville, to have seen it go to Monterey, where it apparently died, and it now has had to be resurrected. Having the Artichoke Festival in Monterey, well, that just isn't right. So I'm glad to see that it's back here, coming back to Castroville, or would have been anywhere out here in the county, been great. But Castroville is the home of the Artichoke Center out of that, and I think it's one of those things that can come back and do some rejuvenation for Castroville. I'm looking forward to the Merritt Street work to be finished down here, so we can go through and start to do some work inside Castroville. Don't want too much construction going at one time, but right now there are millions of dollars that go by all the time on Highway 1 and 156 over to the Monterey Peninsula on tourist dollars. They don't stop here. The Artichoke Festival will give them one more reason to do it. We go through and revitalize that downtown down there, which is the second oldest community in the county, and we can, I think, really take advantage of some of those dollars and revitalize things and build this community back up to where it is.
Many residents feel North Monterey County is overlooked compared to other parts of the county. How would you respond to that concern? And Mr. Church?
That's very true that it has been overlooked in many ways. And as it turns out, I also have my colleague in South County, Chris Lopez, will refer to communities down there that are overlooked, and he's right too. And my colleague on the peninsula, Kate Daniels, will refer up in Tasahara or places down in Big Sur that are overlooked, and that's true too. Because what gets a lot of attention are the cities in the urban areas, such as the Monterey Peninsula, such as Salinas. And that's why I have been, why I want to get reelected, to follow through on some of the things that I was talking about the infrastructure changes, about getting to more of the services on out here. That's where we have baby steps. If you start to look at not just on the roads, but the opportunity with the Crazy Horse transfer station that I mentioned earlier, that is going to be developing, bringing those services back on into here, and getting the attention that this area needs. Because even though this is a geographically small area, half of the unincorporated population of Monterey County lives out here. This is the only supervisor district that has a majority of unincorporated residents, and that is why it is always a priority to make sure that this area gets its concern. We're on that path right now. I've been able to move that forward, and I'm looking forward to it continuing.
We are overlooked. We are overlooked, and we are overlooked often. That's partly why, Dave just mentioned, we are half the unincorporated population of Monterey County. That's what we are. We are. We're not getting half of the resources of the unincorporated resources for our community. I think that we should get it. If we don't get if we don't get a half, we should at least get 20%. We should get something higher than what we're getting now. Whether it's for our parks, whether it's for our roads, whether it's for our public safety, we should be getting that. It's a big, again, there's a big need. It's especially especially when it comes to public safety. The other day I met with Sister Dolores. The other day I met with the Pajaro community group. And to them, one of the biggest issues is just the lack of, they were asking for a sheriff's substation in that community because they have no, the closest thing they have to public safety there is when the Roy County Fire responds to fires there. But they have no, really have very little presence there of our public safety officers. So I think we can do that.
Okay, we're getting near the end here, but first I want to give a little commercial for the League of Women Voters. Everyone should take home a Vote 411 bookmark. They're in the back there on the table. If you go to Vote 411 website and enter your address, you'll see all of the contests and propositions that you will be voting on. Candidates can enter public policy statements and biographies, and we're pleased that both candidates this evening have entered their Vote 411 information. Okay, now it's time for the closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute, when we will begin with Mr. Church, who went last for the opening statements.
So when you become supervisor, you have plans and there's things you want to do and you lay out plans. But I will tell you, as I've learned in these last 3.5 years, you can't plan for the unexpected. As I mentioned earlier, 9 weeks after I was in office, there was the flooding in the community of Pajaro. Spent a year there, basically trying to engage the community, and we did engage the community on how we to spend the $20 million from that, from the state that provided. And it has done a lot on beautification, on aid to the community, on building up the library there. And these are the unexpected things you have to be prepared for. Last year there was the battery fire. It was another unexpected event. Sets things aside, and you have to be prepared for that. I've been through those challenges. I've been tested. I know what to do when there is an emergency that comes up, and I'm looking forward next 4 years not even having emergencies, so I can go through and actually do the programs that I would like to do.
During this emergencies, I've been out there in the front lines dealing with secure places in Santa Cruz County for the Pajaro floods. Our fire department were the first responders to the fire here in Moss Landing. And the work has continued to go forward. This campaign for me has always been about people, the families struggling with housing costs, seniors worried about safety, residents tired of neglected roads and flooding, and communities that feel ignored by the county government. I bring real experience in local government. I've worked with or been an elected official for over 20 years. I've dealt with emergency services, planning, and constituency services as a chief of staff to a supervisor. I know that together we build a stronger and more responsive Monterey County that works for everyone. I respectfully ask for your support. Good night, and I hope your mothers have a happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
And let's give them